My name is Ken Paris. I'm from the Communications Workers of America. I want to thank Stephanie and Mark for inviting me, and they said talk about something. So, if you're on the street and you do a poll or you read polls out there, what's the number one issue that people are going to say faces the United States today? What is it? Jobs. Jobs. That's it. That's what they asked me to talk about. So, let's get to the meat. I'll get back to this stuff in a moment. All right. Can people see this?
Yeah.
If you can read it from the back row, you get a free motor vehicle license. All right. What it shows is comparison of daily minimum wages between different countries. And that's the only thing I could find that you could compare the different countries to that was out there in terms of that. So, the big bar there is the United States. And our minimum wage is $58 a day. Our minimum wage for a full day's work is $58 if you're lucky enough to earn the minimum wage and you have a full-time job, right? All right, 8-hour day, you get your minimum wage, $58. Malaysia, which is in the Trans-Pacific Partnership, is $8.70 a day. China, which is not in the TPP, they earn a legal minimum of $4.59 a day. Now, Vietnam is like one of the most important countries in the Trans-Pacific Partnership. They are a key player here. And they are the low-wage alternative to China. In Vietnam, the minimum wage is, for a day, is $2.23. That's not $2.23 an hour. It's not $2.23 until your lunch break. It's $2.23 a day. And that's the most important one of the most important countries in this Trans-Pacific Partnership. Why? Why is it so low? Because in Vietnam, workers have no labor rights. Workers, in terms of the right to form independent unions, forget it. Who's that a finding of? CWA? No, it's a finding of that radical group, the U.S. State Department. They have restrictions on strikes. So Vietnam's labor code allows Communist Party-controlled unions to strike, but imposes strict and cumbersome conditions that must first be met, which effectively nullify this right. So even if you're in a state union, workers' union, that is tied to the Communist Party there, forget about it. Strikes, forget about it. They're not legal. Who was that by? Human Rights Watch. Goods are produced by child labor and forced labor, especially in the apparel export industry, which is the largest export sector in Vietnam. It is the second largest exporter to the United States after China. They use forced labor, they use child labor. If you are trying to organize an independent union in Vietnam, you can expect to be jailed, go to re-education camps, be harassed, and your life is really miserable. It's one of the worst places in the world to try and organize independent unions. Worse than China. The TPP, I missed something here, let's see. Japan is now going to enter the TPP negotiations, and there you have an example of a highly industrialized country as opposed to Vietnam. So Vietnam will be used to export jobs to and reduce our wages. And Japan is going to have an impact also. Our trade deficit from 2009 to 2012 with Japan increased. And that meant a loss of 130,000 US jobs. When the TPP goes into effect, a study was done that looked at what the impact of reduced tariffs were and what currency manipulation will do, because Japan is manipulating its currency. In the last 8 months, the value of the Japanese yen has decreased by 30%. So that means goods that we export to Japan are 30% more expensive when expressed in yen, and goods that they export to the United States are 30% cheaper. So that impact will be 91,500, just in the auto and auto parts industry alone. So there's a direct influence and effect of the TPP on jobs in the United States. And so what's going on here? Well, this is part of an overall corporate strategy. Not every small business and business are involved in this, but your big players are involved in this. So this shows what corporations and their political allies did, what they said would happen, and what happened. So the overall corporate plan, it's called the neoliberal model around the world. In the United States, it doesn't have a name. We don't even name it because people don't see it, and the media doesn't see it as an overall agenda, an overall plan, where everywhere else in the world it's a neoliberal model. This is the plan. They talk about it in the streets. Here, I don't know what's going on, but here's what's going on. Corporations, the big cats, are attacking the two institutions that have any possibility of counterbalancing their power. That's unions and its government. So the attack on unions is to reduce the number of unions, reduce the cost of labor, increase productivity, and globalize. The attack on government, decrease taxes on the wealthy and corporations, decrease social spending, deregulate environment, deregulate trade, deregulate labor, and deregulate politics. That's Citizens United and all that kind of stuff. Money equals speech. Can you get more blatant than that? And privatize and cut government jobs. That's the plan. And they say if you do that, our profits will increase, investment will increase, jobs will increase, wages will increase, our quality of life will increase, we'll have a trade surplus, and we'll go hand in hand into the sunset. Well, what really happened? We had an economic crisis, we have an environmental crisis, and we have a political crisis, all stemming from the corporate power grab. So in terms of, just quickly, here's a decline in union representation. This isn't just an accident, it's not inevitable, but it's the result of corporate attacks and globalization. We produce more, but we're paid less. The top line is if weekly wages were tied to increases in productivity, as it had been from the end of World War II to the mid-70s. From the 70s on, you can see that bottom line, wages stagnated. The difference between the wage that we earn now and the wage that we would have earned if wages increased with productivity is more than $500 a week. That's $25,000 more on average per worker. Well, where's that money going? But I guess profits, right? Historic highs. Corporate agenda in terms of trade, we see a decline. The bottom part is trade deficits. That happened at the same time unions went into the nosedive. It happened at the same time when the productivity wage gap increased. It's a power issue. We see that we went into being a surplus trade, into a country with major deficits, especially following NAFTA. Where are the jobs? Change in U.S. multinational corporation jobs, 99 to 2010. These big multinationals reduced their employment in the U.S. by 1 million and increased their employment in their controlled foreign affiliates by 3 million. Job loss due to NAFTA, 700,000 jobs lost to NAFTA, though we were promised more jobs. Entering China into the WTO cost us 2.7 million jobs. Those are net. When you have big exports, you have jobs created. If you have big imports, you have jobs lost. If you have net exports, a net loss, meaning imports are greater than exports, you have a net job loss. The TPP will exacerbate our economic crisis. our democracy crisis, economic crisis we went through, democracy crisis. You heard about investor state. That will undermine everything we've worked for in labor, in environment, in health, in safety, in our effectiveness of our democracy, because the corporations can get around what they couldn't get here, and they're getting a lot, but they couldn't get here, they'll end around. So, we're not alone. People are opposing this all over the world. And in your little packets, you have little postcards. Please fill them out. You'll have, hopefully, one to your member of the House, two to your senators. Not everyone got everything, but fill out whatever you have. Hand them to me. We bundle them so that when we have meetings, CWA, Sierra Club, whoever has meetings with these members of Congress and senators, you can bundle, go in with a stack of these things and say, we don't speak just for ourselves or organizations, we speak for a lot of your constituents. So please fill those out, hand them to me, and are you doing all right? No, we don't want you to do all right. We want you to be pissed off so that afterwards you're going to make some noise. Because unless we make noise, you're going to secret this thing through and pass it, and we're going to suffer, our children are going to suffer, the environment's going to suffer, the globe's going to suffer, everyone will be independent. Thank you.
Worked on trade. I'll say that I've been doing many of these events now across the country. This is the second one we've done in New York, and I continue to be amazed at the ability of our organizers to turn out folks and the ability of folks like you to show up on your Wednesday. I don't even know what night today is. But thank you all for being here. This is a really important topic. So I'm going to hone in on two areas of the TPP that would dramatically threaten our environment and our climate. And I'm going to look specifically at these investment rules or investor protections that Elisa and Ken started by laying out. And then I'm going to turn to another subject around how the TPP would dramatically expand natural gas exports. And in both sets of issues, I'm going to focus on how the TPP would dramatically pave the way for more fracking across the United States.
Fracking?
But I'm going to start with this slide, which goes back to an issue that Elisa raised in the beginning, and it's the 600 corporate advisors that have much more access to the texts and the negotiations than any of us, members of Congress or the media, has. This list actually is public, the list of about, again, 600 cleared advisors. They're all corporate advisors. There are about 20 or so non-corporate advisors, but we're clearly outnumbered. And this is a screenshot of the energy advisors to the U.S. Trade Representative. That's the body of the U.S. government that negotiates agreements like the TPP. So somehow missing on this list of energy advisors is the Sierra Club or Public Citizen. So instead we have, I tried to highlight National Coal Council, Kansas Natural Gas, Halliburton, Chevron, GE, the list goes on, Caterpillar, Nuclear Energy Institute, etc. So these are the institutions that are actively shaping the energy implications of the TPP. And I think it's really important to keep this list of actors in mind, because once we understand who is actively involved in shaping this agreement, I think it becomes a lot more clear why the agreement actually looks the way it does and will serve who it will serve, which hint is most of these companies. So on the investment chapter, this is one of the 29 chapters that Elisa mentioned. And the idea, just like the idea of a free trade agreement, is supposedly to free up and expand as much trade as possible to maximize profits. The idea of the investment chapters that have been included in all of our free trade agreements, and also the idea of these bilateral investment treaties, is to encourage as much investment, as much foreign investment, corporations, investors investing overseas as possible. And while certainly the idea of investment can be and is important, I think the rules in these agreements go way too far in offering extremely broad rights to foreign corporations to challenge environment, public health, and other policies, as I'll talk about. So this chapter actually has leaked. It leaked about a year ago, so we know what's in it. And we know, for example, that the TPP will offer foreign corporations, for example, a guarantee to a minimum standard of treatment and fair and equitable treatment. These are extremely vaguely worded provisions that have been included in NAFTA and other free trade agreements that have essentially function as a standstill on regulation, because virtually any new law or policy, new regulations in the natural gas industry can be claimed to violate the predictable regulatory environment of an investor. Investors have claimed that, and time again, investors have won. And when a corporation alleges that their minimum standard of treatment or their fair and equitable treatment has been violated, they're then offered this investor state dispute settlement system, which allows the corporation to sue the government in a private tribunal for unlimited cash compensation. And because this really is too crazy to believe, I just took another screenshot. I have one more even after this. I'm a fan of screenshots. This is Lone Pine, Inc. Resources. It's US, conveniently located in Delaware. It doesn't actually have operations in the United States. Investor that had invested in Canada. So I just wanted to tell a quick story to highlight some of the threats posed by these rules. And this story brings us to Canada, to Quebec, where communities there had been fighting against fracking, particularly in the area of their St. Lawrence River. So after a long struggle with community engagement, the National Assembly of Quebec placed a moratorium on fracking. Simply a timeout for fracking. Similar to a lot of the amazing work New Yorkers have done to halt fracking in the state. So in Quebec, they succeeded. The National Assembly passed this law. Lone Pine didn't like that timeout. So what they did was they used NAFTA. This case was just filed at the end of last year to threaten to sue Canada for $250 million under NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, because Quebec had violated their right to mine. I kid you not. So this is their notice of intent. Lone Pine is suing under NAFTA for the arbitrary, capricious, illegal revocation of the enterprise's valuable right to mine for oil and gas underneath the St. Lawrence River by the government of Quebec without due process, etc. I'd never heard of the concept of the right to mine until I got into trade work, and this is the type of threats that we could see being expanded by the TPP. Just to show, this is a part of the campaign that the Sierra Club has launched with allies in Canada, the Council of Canadians, among others, saying there is no right to frack. We've been calling on Lone Pine to drop its case, but really using this just as an example of the types of cases that are being launched. With time, I can talk about dozens of other cases. A Swedish firm is suing Germany for Germany's commitment to phase out nuclear power and replace it with clean energy. They already sued Germany for new regulations in their coal-fired power plants, etc. There have been, to date, about 500 cases launched against 95 governments. They're not hypothetical. I highlighted environment case, but you can replace environment for public health, labor, or other public interest regulations. So I wanted to shift in my last few minutes to another set of issues that the Sierra Club is really deeply concerned about, and that is the ability of the TPP, as I mentioned, to dramatically expand exports of natural gas, once again paving the way to more fracking across the United States. So, a little bit of background on this. As many of you might well be aware, because of new gas development, because of fracking across the United States, the price of natural gas in the United States is at a record low, as this map shows. About $3, $3.30 per BTU is the unit of measurement. Whereas in other parts of the world where there's much less supply, the price is naturally much higher. So Japan, again, the newest participant into the TPP, is about 6 times higher. Price of natural gas in Europe is about 3 times higher. So naturally, the natural gas industry, think about that first slide once again, is really interested in exporting US natural gas and fracking the gas in the United States, but then exporting it to foreign markets where they can earn significantly more money. So this, just to give you a sense, is a map of the proposed export terminals that the natural gas industry are proposing now for Department of Energy to build terminals across the United States where they, again, can take the fracked gas and sell it to foreign markets. The Sierra Club is, of course, deeply concerned about these exports and has been intervening and opposing, actually, all of these export terminals for a number of reasons. One, again, is that it would dramatically expand fracking across the United States. If all of these 25 terminals were built, all most likely won't be built, but if all were, the US could be exporting about 45% of our natural gas production. To produce all that gas, we'd have to, or to sell all that gas, we'd have to produce more. About 63% of that volume would be from new production, and almost all of that would be from fracking. So it would put a tremendous strain to frack more gas. It would also require a huge new network of pipelines, which has tremendous climate implications of methane leaks, etc. And the greenhouse gas implications of just having to first extract the gas, cool the gas, liquefy the gas, transport the gas, regasify the gas has a life cycle larger than coal, many say. It would also have a tremendous impact on raising domestic gas prices, because there'd be less supply in the United States, and lock us into more fossil fuel investment at a time where we need to be transitioning to truly clean and renewable sources of energy. So what does this got to do with the TPP? Normally, in order to export natural gas, the Department of Energy is charged with doing what's called a public interest determination. And that's a process where it has to weigh the economic and environmental impacts of natural gas exports. And that process is really critical to being able to think through this process and to being able to build a deliberate energy policy. We don't think the Department of Energy is doing a great job of that. They've already approved the first export terminal. But nonetheless, having that process is really important, and it provides a really important advocacy hub for us. So consistent, though, with the free trade model, which is a deregulation model, US law actually states that this whole process of a public interest determination, just an analysis to look at the impacts of natural gas exports, is waived for any country with which the United States has signed a free trade agreement that calls for something called national treatment for trade in gas, which we understand the TPP includes. And in this case, exports are automatically deemed in the public interest, and it becomes illegal to condition, deny, or delay any permit requirements. This is incredibly important in the TPP context because, again, Japan is the largest natural gas importer in the world, may soon be starting to join the negotiations, and that can pull an enormous strain for more exports. They've already said one of the reasons they want to join is to import US natural gas, which would put a tremendous strain again to produce more and to frack more. So this is just one of the sort of many issues that the Sierra Club is really deeply concerned about, and in this case, again, just the negligence that the United States, without even really having studied the environmental impacts of natural gas exports, would be signing away our right forever to be able to even review what some of these impacts are. So what do? Fight back! So we should have said from the beginning that all of us are telling some pretty dire tales, but there is a history of actually succeeding and stopping free trade agreements like the TPP. In fact, there's never been an agreement as big as the TPP that has gone through. There's a free trade area of the Americas, for example, which some of you may have heard of. Some of you may not have heard of because it never actually got to its point of completion, in part because of citizen advocacy like the one we are all engaging in together tonight. So we are, of course, going to be laying out some of the impacts of the TPP now, and then we're going to be breaking into breakout groups. But I just do want to say that the best point to influence or to stop a free trade negotiation, is right now. It's in the process of negotiation. Once it reaches the floor of Congress, it is a lot more difficult. So just look forward to working with you all and figuring out how we can all engage together, reach our members of Congress, and let them know that there's no way that we would accept a deal and that was anything like this.
Start with an upbeat note based on what Lana just said, because recently I think it was a family member just asked me if I'm not tired of fighting all these agreements and losing all the time. So I thought about that question and I realized that we have won the most important ones so far. The big multilateral agreements, we have beaten them. We beat the multilateral agreement on investment in 1999, which was an agreement that the European Union and the United States and Mexico wanted to sign to bring in all these international investment rules under one big umbrella. But we fought it. Then, as Lana said, in 2000, 2004, 2005, we built the free trade area of the Americas, which was a major battle among us, Latin Americans and North Americans, and the governments of the hemisphere, led by President Bush. Then we built the WTO in Cancun, because the governments of the rich countries wanted to bring into the WTO also these investment rules that we're fighting today with the TPP. And they couldn't bring them in. That's why they've been so frustrated so far about the WTO, because it's not the forum they want to control the world with these rules. And more recently, the marvelous visit of the raging grannies reminded me that the first time I saw them was when they were riding in their old cars into Montebello, Quebec, when we were, many of us, Mexicans, Americans, and Canadians, went there to demonstrate against the summit of the Security and Prosperity Partnership. I don't know if you remember that SPP, the Security and Prosperity Partnership that Bush was organizing